And now, when most people are diagnosed with cancer, they're immediately concerned about themselves and, of course, their loved ones, and the looming question of how do I pay for the treatment? And in light of Global Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, we're talking about the cost of cancer and severe illness treatment overall in the numerous medical advances that have been made in treatment and options and facilities that are available. And joining me for this discussion is Jaco Gouws, who is the Protection Product Head at Old Mutual, and he joins me from our Sea Point studios. Jaco, good morning and thanks so much for speaking to us.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning, viewers.
Jaco, first and foremost, you know, the cost of treatment. First you hear the dreaded word cancer, and then after you get over the initial shock of that, one would imagine you start thinking about the cost. So as we speak right now, what is the cost of cancer treatment in South Africa at the moment, even if it's just a rough estimate that you can throw at me?
Yeah, before I want to sort of talk about the cost, I think we have to start with a bit of good news. And given that it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the survival rates of cancer has increased significantly over the last few years, and that's partly due to people, you know, smoking less, leading healthier lifestyles, but a big advancement in medical technology. And then the surprising fact, many people might not know this, but it's also due to the early diagnosis. Now that's the identification of cancer, and that sort of leads to the cost side. So the focus has more shifted from surviving it than dealing with the payment. So breast cancer, someone that suffers from breast cancer has actually a 95% chance of survival at the moment. Now, if you look at the total cost, you know, if something like a cancer is divided into 4 categories. So firstly, it's the diagnosis, us finding out. Secondly, it's the treatment, and that's typically where your question relates to, that element there. And then you also get the other 2 sides of it that very few people kind of think about, and that's the recovery part. That's step 3. That's typically when you walk out of the hospital, out of treatment. And then lastly, the unexpected expenses. Now, we are very fortunate for great hospitals and care in South Africa, and obviously wonderful medical aids and sort of gap cover there. But, you know, and they deal with a lot of those kind of expenses. But I mean, it could very easily be in the vicinity of, you know, close to R500,000 rand, depending on the severity. But it could go up to R1 million if it's you know, you can't deal with it immediately, and it comes back it comes back from remission.
So you talk about R500,000 rand, and does this cover that entire 4-stage process that you just outlined?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want to sort of deal with it and what's the impact on your life. And you know, when I specifically want to talk about the unexpected part of it, you know, a lot of people kind of view that when you've been treated for cancer, that life just returns back to normality. But there's a lot of other things that you kind of deal with. I remember speaking to a young creative director at an ad agency in Cape Town, and he actually suffered cancer in his 20s. And he said his biggest regret was actually not dealing or speaking to a psychologist, because they say about 60% of people that suffer from cancer actually have depression. So there is a lot of sort of out of hospital, day-to-day kind of expenses that some people view come out of your savings account from a medical aid. But a lot of them, you know, it gets exhausted very, very quickly, you know. So it's actually, you know, do I go back to work immediately full time? There's a lot of sort of questions around that. Can I actually work until I originally wanted to? You know, as part of my retirement planning, may I for example, wanted to work till 65. You know, if you have something that influences your health like this, you don't always have the opportunity to continue there, to your health sort of deteriorates. So there's a number of sort of off the ball or unexpected kind of expenses that happen as well.
So what can one do in that regard? You know, what sort of products are there available to ensure not just the financial well-being of the patient, but also of extended family during and after, as you point out, such an event?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we always sort of hope and build on for a brighter future for ourselves and our children in the forms of savings and investment, it's like my dad always said, life is about balance. You know, you have to grow but also protect, and this is where severe illness protection that pays a tax-free lump sum comes in very, very handy, because you know, as much as you've saved a little for a rainy day and for your child's education, you don't want to actually go and touch that money when something like cancer starts knocking at the door. So a severe illness policy there typically pays a tax-free lump sum that you can use for all of these kind of expenses that I referred to previously, but also very importantly, and I spoke about the impact on your job and your ability to do it, there's also income protection that you can get, and even if it's just off for a period of time, because like I've said, a lot of people, the survival rates are very good these days. And if you're 3 or 6 months off for a period of time, it also just sort of fills that gap and helps you to pay those monthly bills and settle all your accounts at the end of the month.
But Jaco, at which point do you take out that severe illness cover? Is it at the point of diagnosis? When? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, no, so typically this is where a financial planner comes in very, very handy, you know, because it's like, you know, you have to balance all these things. You need to start saving very early for your retirement, but ideally you need to take this benefit out sort of in advance of actually being diagnosed. Your chances of actually qualifying for a benefit, because there is a sort of an underwriting exercise we do to assess, you know, what kind of for customers or people can actually get this. So you actually have to buy this product or get this in advance of this. You're very unlikely you'll be able to get this once you have been diagnosed. So it's important that you speak to someone early in advance and balance that saving every month and also taking that required amount of protection as early as possible, and also sort of benefit from your healthy lifestyle at that point in time, or health.
Jaco, just a final one. So where would you refer people to? Where can they go to perhaps look into trying to speak to someone about severe illness cover?
Yeah, I mean, your personal financial advisor, your broker is a very, very good place to start. Alternatively, if you don't have one, you can go to oldmutual.co.za. There's a very nice feature there to find an advisor, where you can click and specify your address and actually go and handpick the advisor that you will be interested to speak to, or you can just give us a ring on 0860 60 60, and then you can just start that conversation. Not just speak about severe illness protection as well. It's important to have a balanced view around your finances. You know, helps you with your debt and financial situation there, to make sure that you've got a better tomorrow in terms of your financial health as much as your personal health.
Jaco, thanks so much for your time this morning. And Jaco Gouws is a protection product head at Old Mutual, talking to us about the cost of severe illness like cancer. And of course, it is macabre, it is depressing, but these things do happen. And especially if in your family there is a history of severe illness, then perhaps it's something worth looking into. Let's take a quick break. When we come back,